Avionics. Objectives. After completing this section, you will get familiar with Garmin G1000 NXI Integrated Avionics System, Garmin G1000 NXI System Overview, Flight Instruments, Nav, COM, and Transponder, and GFC 700 Autopilot. Garmin G1000 NXI Integrated Avionics System. The Garmin G1000 NXI is an integrated flight instrument system, installed in the DA-40NG airplane. It consists of two LCD units, as well as an integrated communication panel, that fits in between the two display units. The G1000 NXI replaces most conventional flight instruments and avionics into an integrated package, that makes flight information easier to scan and process. However, a few backup conventional flight instruments are still present in the airplane, such as the airspeed indicator, artificial horizon, altimeter, and a compass. The G1000 NXI Integrated Avionics System, IAS, is an integrated package that includes all of the following systems: Flight Instrumentation System, Engine Instrumentation System, Communication Instrumentation System, as well as Navigation and Surveillance Instrumentation System. The G1000 NXI Integrated Flight Deck System shows flight instrumentation, position, navigation, communication, and identification information, which are displayed on flat panel color screens. The system is distributed across the following line replaceable units, LRUs: Primary Flight Display, PFD, Multifunction Display, MFD, Audio Panel, Attitude and Heading Reference System, AHRS, Air Data Computer, ADC, Engine Airframe Unit, EAU, Transponder, Magnetometer, Integrated Avionics Unit, IAU, and Data Link Satellite Radio Receiver. The integrated computer system has two Garmin Integrated Avionics, GIAs 63W or 64W. Each has an integrated avionics unit. The two IAUs are identical units, and operate independently. The IAU processes all the data that are displayed on the G1000 NXI primary flight display, and the multifunction display. Each IAU supplies one cockpit display, with system integration processors, input and output processors, very high-frequency COM, nav, lock, GPS, WAAS, glide slope, and flight director, with GFC 700 Autopilot. Each IAU contains a very high-frequency communication, known as VFH COM, navigation, VFH nav, and glide slope, GP receiver, in addition to other systems. The VHF communication enables external radio communication, via antennas. The Emergency Locator Transmitter, ELT antenna, is placed inside the fuselage structure. The VHF COM1 antenna is located on top of the fuselage. The VHF COM2 antenna is located on the bottom of the fuselage, whereas the VHF nav and GP antennas are situated inside the horizontal stabilizer. Other antennas are situated at different locations to serve the communication and navigation for the airplane. The antennas that are located at the fuselage belly of the airplane include the marker antenna, distance measuring equipment, DME, or the transponder, XPDR antenna, and automatic direction finder, ADF antenna. Moreover, the GPS antennas are located on the cabin roof. The PFD and the MFD panels communicate with each other and are both paired to a separate integrated avionics unit, IAU. The audio panel integrates the NavCom digital audio, intercom system, and marker beacon controls between the two display screens. The Air Data Computer, ADC, processes the data from the pitot-static system and outside temperature sensor to supply the attitude and heading reference system, AHRS, and both IAUs, as well as the display panels, with airspeed, altitude, vertical speed, and outside air temperature. The magnetometer supplies the attitude and heading reference system with heading data in order to provide the airplane attitude, rate of turn, and slip skid information to both IAUs and the display panels. The transponder provides modes A, C, and S functions. The transponder communicates with both IAUs and is linked directly to the display screens. The engine airframe unit is a microprocessor-based unit that receives and processes signals from airframe and engine sensors. It communicates directly with both IAUs. If an autopilot is installed, for example GFC 700, servos provide automatic control of pitch, roll, and pitch trim. Then the Autopilot GFC 700 interfaces with both IAUs. The Garmin G1000NXi is integrated with optional data sources that are paired to the MFD. All these systems are linked to IAU number 2 and consist of automatic direction finder, ADF receiver, distance measuring equipment, DME, traffic advisory system, TAS, storm scope, which detects lightning strike and thunderstorm, and an autopilot. The data link receiver, DLR, supplies the MFD directly with real-time weather and digital audio entertainment data. When the line replaceable unit, or LRU function fails, a large red X annunciation is displayed on the window associated with the failed data. The LRU information shows the status of each system, the serial number, and the version. Moreover, the active LRUs are indicated by green check marks, while the failed LRUs are indicated by red X's. When the LRU fails, the display systems stop receiving data and measurements from one or more of the LRUs. For example, the display system does not receive engine instrumentation, nav, COM, valid transponder information, and GPS inputs from the integrated avionics unit. Not only the IAU sends inputs to the engine instrument panel, but also the engine airframe unit. If the attitude and heading reference system, or the magnetometer fails, the display does not receive valid heading and attitude inputs. If the air data computer fails, the display does not receive valid altitude, airspeed and vertical speed inputs, OAT information, and true airspeed. If the transponder fails, the display does not receive valid transponder information. The remote avionic box in the DA-40NG airplane is placed behind the aft baggage compartment frame. The transponder coupler, which is part of the traffic advisory system, is mounted on the remote avionic box of the Garmin system. A push-to-talk button for the COM portion of the G1000NXi is mounted on the end of each control stick. For the headsets, there are connection facilities for up to 4 headsets, and are located between the front seats. Additionally, there is a mic socket located on the left side of the cockpit panel. The Garmin system uses secure digital cards for aviation database and system software updates, as well as terrain database storage. Each of the PFD and MFD bezels is equipped with 2 SD card slots. The bezel SD slots are located on the upper right side of the display screens. Garmin G1000NXi System Overview. This slide represents the control keys and knobs for the primary flight display used in Garmin G1000NXi. Click on the key or the knob for more information. This slide represents the control keys and knobs for the multifunction display used in Garmin G1000 NXi. Click on the key or the knob for more information. The Garmin audio panel incorporates a microcontroller for processing front panel key commands, annunciator control, input and output functions, and communication. Click on the key or the knob for more information. This slide provides information applicable to Garmin G1000 NXi primary flight display. Click on the indicator for more information. This slide provides additional information applicable to Garmin G1000 NXi primary flight display. Click on the indicator for more information. During system initialization, the PFD displays the test annunciations that should disappear typically within the first minute of power up. Meanwhile, the attitude and heading reference system begins to initialize and to display AHRS align, keep wings level. The AHRS should also display valid attitude and heading fields within the first minute of power up. When the MFD powers up, the screen displays the following information: the system version, copyright, land database name and version, obstacle database name and version, terrain database name and version, and aviation database name, version, and effective dates. Note: the database version is displayed on the MFD Power Up page immediately after System Power Up and must be acknowledged. The remaining system software versions can be verified on the AUX Group sub-page 5, AUX, System Status. The G1000 NXi system is capable of detecting failures that occur in PFD or MFD displays, so the system automatically enters the reversionary mode. If the system fails to detect any display problem, the pilot can manually activate the reversionary mode by pressing the Display Backup button on the audio panel. Pressing the same button again deactivates the reversionary mode. In reversionary mode, critical flight instrumentation is combined with engine instrumentation on the remaining display, and minimal navigation capability is available on the screen. Garmin G1000 NXi flight instruments. The airspeed indicator presented in G1000 NXi includes actual airspeed, airspeed trend vector, V-speed reference, speed ranges, and true airspeed box. The actual airspeed is displayed inside a black pointer and indicates the current airspeed of the airplane. Both ends of the trend vector predict what the airspeed will be in 6 seconds if the current rate of acceleration or deceleration is maintained. When the V-speed references are active, the V-speeds are displayed at their respective locations, to the right of the airspeed scale. The speed ranges are color-coded stripes, representing the airspeed limitations and indicator markings. The true airspeed box indicates the current airspeed of the airplane in digit presentation. The altimeter indicator has altitude reference box that is displayed above the altimeter scale, and indicates the selected altitude set by the pilot. The current altitude represents the actual altitude of the airplane, and it is displayed inside a black pointer. The altitude trend vector has 2 ends, each displays the expected altitude in the upcoming 6 seconds. The altitude reference bug is a marking that can be set to any specific altitude to indicate that the desired altitude is approaching. The barometric setting box displays the pressure altitude. The vertical speed indicator VSI displays the vertical speed of an airplane on a fixed scale. with labels every 2,000 feet per minute, and minor tick marks every 1,000 feet per minute. The actual vertical speed is displayed inside a black pointer when the ascent or descent rate is greater than 100 feet per minute. Additionally, the vertical speed shows a minus sign to the left of the readings to indicate the descendance of the airplane. The vertical deviation indicator, VDI, appears in conjunction with the top of descent within 1 minute message. The VDI is removed from the display if the vertical deviation becomes invalid. The glide slope indicator appears to the left of the altimeter only when the instrument landing system, ILS frequency is tuned in the active nav field. The glide path is analogous to the glide slope for GPS approaches. The glide path indicator appears as a magenta diamond during the approach, once the approach type is loaded into the flight plan, and GPS is the selected navigation source. The horizontal situation indicator, HSI, in G1000NXI, can be displayed in two ways, one as a 360 degrees compass rose, and the other as a 210 degrees HSI map. To choose between the two options, the Map/HSI soft key on the PFD must be pressed, followed by pressing the Layout soft key. The Map Off soft key will be activated by default to show a 360 degrees presentation of the HSI. Pressing the HSI Map soft key changes the default state of the HSI to a 210 degrees display. The horizontal situation indicator has many elements that display different data. Click on the indicator or the symbol for more information. The course deviation indicator, CDI, rotates right or left, away from the course lateral pointer, to display the aircraft position relative to the course. The CDI is not displayed if the course deviation is not valid. The CDI displays two sources of navigation, GPS, or VOR, localizer. The color indicates the current navigation source. A magenta color for GPS is used, and green color for VOR and localizer. The outside air temperature is displayed on the lower left side of the PFD, under normal display conditions. The OAT is expressed in degrees Celsius, or Fahrenheit, depending on the unit chosen by the pilot. In the reversionary mode, the OAT is displayed below the true airspeed box. The wind direction and speed indicator is displayed on the upper left side of the horizontal situation indicator. To present the wind data, the PFD soft key must be pressed. Then the wind soft key is selected. After pressing the wind soft key, one of three display options is presented, only if the wind information is valid. However, if the wind indicator is selected for display, but the wind information is invalid or unavailable, the indicator displays no wind data. Nav, COM, and Transponder. The NavCom controls and frequency windows, in G1000NXI, are located in the upper part of the PFD and the MFD in the same locations. The nav and COM frequency boxes are each composed of 4 fields, and are presented identically in both PFD and MFD. For the nav frequency box, the 2 active frequencies are presented on the right side, and the 2 standby frequencies are on the left. Whereas for the COM frequency box, the 2 active frequencies are presented on the left side, and the 2 standby frequencies are on the right. An active nav or COM frequency displayed in green indicates that the nav or COM transceiver is selected on the audio panel. The frequency fields include tuning boxes, standby fields, active fields, frequency toggle arrows, and a navigation status window. To select the channel for navigation, the CDI soft key located on the PFD must be pressed. Then the active nav frequency is displayed in green. Pressing the CDI soft key once, selects nav1 as the navigation channel. Pressing the CDI soft key for a second time, selects nav2 as the navigation channel. Pressing the CDI soft key a third time, activates GPS mode, and both active nav frequencies are then displayed in white. The nav aids are selected by pressing the corresponding keys on the audio panel. Pressing the nav1, nav2, ADF, or DME key, selects and deselects the active navigation source. To select the COM transceiver for transmitting, the COM mic keys located on the audio panel must be pressed. Then the active COM frequency is displayed in green. Pressing the COM1 mic key selects COM1 as a transmitting radio. Pressing the COM2 mic key selects COM2 as an active frequency. Frequencies in the standby field are displayed in either white or gray. If the standby frequency is in the tuning box, then the frequency is displayed in white, and the other standby frequency is displayed in gray. When both COM frequencies appear in white, this indicates that no COM radio is selected for transmitting. The transponder installed on G1000NXI provides Mode A, Mode C, and Mode S interrogation and reply capabilities. The transponder function is displayed on 3 levels of soft keys on the PFD as follows: top level, mode selection, and code selection. The top-level transponder soft key is the XPDR soft key, which displays the transponder mode selection soft keys, once it is pressed. The mode selection soft keys that appear are standby, on, alt, VFR, code, and ident. For the code selection, the code soft key is pressed, and the following soft keys appear: numbers from 0 to 7, ident, and BKSB. When the airplane is on the ground, the system normally selects the ground mode. A green GND indication and a transponder code appear in the mode field of the transponder data box. The ground mode can be overridden by pressing any one of the mode selection soft keys. Standby mode is selected at any time by pressing the standby soft key. When standby is selected, a white STBY indication and a transponder code appear in the mode field of the TDB. In standby, the transponder does not reply to interrogations, but new codes can be entered. The altitude mode is automatically selected by the system when the airplane becomes airborne. It can also be selected manually. When the Alt soft K is selected, a green Alt indication and transponder code appear in the mode field of the transponder data box. The On mode is selected at any time by pressing the On soft key. When the On soft key is selected, a green On indication and transponder code appear in the mode field of the TDB. The reply status appears when the transponder sends replies to interrogations. A white R indication appears momentarily. Pressing the ident soft key sends an ID indication to air traffic control. The ATC distinguishes the transponder by its ID from all the other airplanes on the ATC's radar screen. The ident soft key appears in all levels of transponder soft keys. When the ident soft key is pressed, a green ident indication is displayed in the mode field of the TDB, for a duration of 18 seconds. The ident soft K is inoperative in standby mode. For a pilot to enter the flight ID before each flight operation, the data entry must be done in the Timer References window. This window can be accessed by pressing the TMR, REF soft key. The References window includes a timer, glide info, borrow mins, and flight ID. The flight ID cannot exceed 7 characters, with no space needed between the entities. If the entered flight ID has a space, the system automatically removes it upon completing the entry. GFC 700 Autopilot. The GFC 700 Autopilot is a digital automatic flight control system, fully integrated within the G1000 NXI system Avionics. The functionality of the GFC 700 Autopilot in DA-40NG airplane is distributed across primary flight display, multifunction display, 2 integrated avionics units, and 3 AFCS servos and servo mounts. GFC 700 AFCS is a 2-axis autopilot and flight director system. It operates the flight director, autopilot, and manual electric trim, in order to provide automatic flight control for the airplane. GFC Autopilot supplies the pilot with the following control features: altitude pre-select and altitude hold, flight level change with airspeed hold, vertical speed hold, navigation tracking for VOR and GPS, heading hold, and finally approach mode, and go-around pitch and roll guidance. The GFC 700 AFCS consists of autopilot controls, which are located on the bezel of the MFD. For more information about the GFC 700 components, click on the box corresponding to each key. Not all AFCS controls are located on the bezel of the MFD. For example, the autopilot disconnect switch is located on the top of both control sticks. The control wheel steering button and the autopilot trim switch are both located on the top of the left control stick. Whereas, the go-around switch is located on the throttle handle. Click on the box for more information regarding the autopilot. The GFC 700 Autopilot has an electric pitch trim system to provide automatic pitch trim during autopilot operation. The pilot can also control the electric pitch trim manually by a split switch on the control stick, even if the autopilot is not engaged. The autopilot and manual electric trim will not operate until the system successfully completed the pre-flight test. The pre-flight test begins automatically after the avionic master switch is set to the on. The electric trim system and the autopilot are supplied through the avionic master switch and the autopilot circuit breaker. Turning off the avionic master switch can be used as an additional means to disable the autopilot and electric trim system. Automatic autopilot disengagement is indicated by a flashing red AP annunciation and by the autopilot disconnect oral alert. The autopilot is automatically disengaged if the following conditions take place: electrical power failure, internal autopilot system failure, attitude and heading reference system malfunction, and loss of air data computer information. The GFC 700 Autopilot can be manually disconnected by one of the following means: depressing the red autopilot disk button on any of the control sticks, pushing the autopilot button on the autopilot mode controller when the autopilot is engaged, moving the left, outboard, side of the manual electric trim switch on the pilot's control stick, depressing the GA button on the left side of the power lever, pulling the autopilot circuit breaker, turning off the avionics master switch, or turning off the electric master key switch. The autopilot status is displayed in the center of the automatic flight control system status box. Lateral flight director modes are displayed on the left, and vertical on the right. Armed modes are enunciated in white, and active modes are enunciated in green. Summary. With this section, you got familiar with Garmin G1000 NXI Integrated Avionics System, Garmin G1000 NXI System Overview, Flight Instruments, Navcom and Transponder. And GFC 700 Autopilot.